Check it. Alright, just got home from work, and the good news is I had something in the mail. And as you can see, it's I think, as long as the light, it's not reflecting too badly, Grand Trunk Nano 7. According to this, microlight hammock. World's lightest backpacking hammock, according to this. Now, rumour has it these come in at about 7 ounces, which I think is around about 158, 138 somewhat grams, or might be 198. Anyway, let's find out. Now, I actually had planned to come home and mess with some ridge lines and some tarp tie-offs, etc., etc. Because I actually, yesterday received some grey amsteel, 7/64 there, and some 1.9mm tech line. Now, I've been having a go at doing some whoopie slings, and I've got to say, anybody that has considered it, get into it. Piece of cake. Jump online, you know, have a look at YouTube, see how to do it. Real easy. Once you get the hang of it, it takes a little bit. My suggestion at this point is, you know, grab your amsteel, cut off a few small lengths, and just practice, you know, burying lines and doing some splicing and stuff like that before you actually start cutting your whole lengths. Because I can pretty much tell you, you're probably going to butcher a few. That's what I did, got my technique down, and then once I realised what I was doing and was confident with my ability not to butcher the line, that's when I started having a go at knocking up the whoopie slings. And then once you've done the whoopie slings and you're comfortable with this sort of thickness, then you can move on to you know, that sort of thickness there as well. Obviously the same sort of techniques apply. You need to look at some, just see if I can get you a good look at that. You obviously need to look at some smaller, there we go. You obviously need to look at some smaller tools for the same job, but effectively the techniques apply for the amsteel as they do for the tech line or anything along those lines. Now the tech line, if you haven't seen it before, I hadn't. I was considering zing it or lash it, and I had seen on a video on YouTube that this is quite stiff, and you can see it is. That's the one thing I probably don't like about it. You can see it tends to hold a figure, so we'll see how that goes as far as using it for tie-outs. I may just stick with this for my ridge line and using it for splicing and doing some things like that, but we'll see what I can come up with. Obviously on hammock forums and YouTube, the world is my oyster, so very excited about having all that cordage there and going to have lots of fun with that, and obviously order more in the future. Anyway, down to the job at hand, what we want to do is have a look at the Nano 7 here. We'll turn this on and you'll see that that's zeroed. Now that's on, not sure if you can see there, that's on grams at the moment. Got a weight in the bag and in its case, so let's just have a look anyway, just out of curiosity. And 225 grams and ounces, 7.93, which gives hope because this says that it's 7 ounces, I believe, including, I think, carabiners. So that's what I'm curious to see, whether carabiners are in there, or 0.496 pounds, or nearly half a pound there. Alright, let's whip it out of this, which is going to come out real easy. Look at that, bonsai. So nice soft little bag. I think similar material to what the actual hammock's going to be made out of. Nice Grand Trunk logo on the front. Quite like that camel with a few humps. Anyway, let's see what she weighs in the bag. So we've got 207 grams, 7.3 ounces, so we're getting pretty close, and 0.456 pound. Alright, now let's go about getting this out of the bag. Okay, I'm going to have to put you down, guys, for a sec. Something that I just found interesting as I went to break this out of the, well, I think I can feel something hard in there, so I think we might actually have those carabiners. So something that I found interesting was, I thought that actually stitched a knot on the end here. We'll just wait for that to focus. There we go. I thought that actually it was like a tied knot, and I was just about to break into it and start to try and pull it apart and have a whinge about the knot, but it's actually like a prusik knot. So just so you know, if you grab it, rather than starting to undo it yourself, just slide it along. Now I think somebody had some feedback this before. I think you just had to tie a knot in it. So I think Grand Trunk's been obviously listening and said feedback, and have done something to allow you to tighten that up. Now I'm just going to squeeze this out, and here she comes. And yeah, look, the bag feels like it's identical material. Let's pop her out. Now the bag, I believe, is still stitched to the side. Again, some additional feedback that I saw about the stitching of the bag was that it wasn't done particularly well. So we'll get a focus there. The bag eventually just rips off, but that looks like it's, I don't know, what do we call that, double stitched all the way along. I don't think that's a thread issue there. So that looks fine. Okay, so with it in its sack with the carabiners, now that we know they're in there, so that's the 205 grams, which I know is going to be over the 7 ounces, 7.23 ounces, or 0.451 pounds, so still literally under half a pound. Alright, let's knock those carabiners off, stick the whoopies in, and just see straight up what sort of weight saving we've got there. So I try not to load up videos that are rehashing information that's already out there, and try to provide useful stuff. So what I actually did when I was swapping over the carabiner that comes standard with an N07, I actually swapped them over for the whoopie slings. Actually just kind of stumbled onto a technique that might work for you, might make it a little bit simpler. Obviously I realised when trying to feed the whoopie slings through the gathered end of the DD hammock that there's easier ways, and if you can pull the whoopie sling through when you're actually taking out whatever's currently in there, whatever sort of suspension system's currently in there, because I want to obviously keep these and put them somewhere. What I've actually did in this instance is just drop that into the gate like that, drop the gate on it. Now it's not going to damage it because there's no sharp edges on these gates, so just drop that in there, and then simply rotate your end through like that, pulling the whoopie sling through as you go. Oh, you got the wrong way there. There we go. Eventually going to come out the other end, and there's your whoopie sling. So what you can actually do there is obviously pull a little bit of whoopie through, because I'm actually going to want to go through there a second time. So just continue around again. You'll find that your whoopie is going to come out again. There we go. So you can now undo the beaner, take that off, and should we go that way? Take your beaner out. So you can be a little bit tight in there because you've got your whoopie sling in, and feed the other end of the whoopie through. There we go. And obviously now it's just a case of tidying that up, getting it to sit around there as nicely as possible, and there you go. So that's just an easier way to get the whoopie sling through the end using the carabiner. Since it's already in there, you might as well benefit from that. Okay, so now this doesn't include webbing or anything of the like. We've just strictly changed over the carabiners, 2 of, which, out of interest, about 33 grams or 1.12 ounces or 0.07 pounds each. So 2 of. And we swapped those for the whoopie slings, but obviously whoopie slings is not suspension make. Obviously need to add webbing. I suppose you could just throw those around the tree, but anyway, let's get to the point. 175 grams or 6.13 ounces. I get a bit excited. And or 0.383 pounds. So that's pretty impressive. Obviously, first impressions, this is really lightweight material. Ripstop, I believe, not sure what the grade of it is. It's on the website, whatever. You can figure that one out. You've probably already spotted it since you've been checking it out. Actually, hang on, here we go. What do we got? Weight 7.4 ounces, so they were pretty close with that. I thought it was normally advertised as 7. 100%, again, 1.7 ounce ripstop nylon. I thought it might have been lighter than that, but very interesting. Alright, let's have a go. So here it is set up in my, I guess my test bed, if you will. There's the Austral tarp there as well, Austral hiker tarp. Now I do have a Big Daddy come from Wilderness Logic, so really looking forward to that turning up, and we'll have a bit of a play with that when it turns up. Now here we go, Whoopie slings with the Marlin spike, the Big Agnes Crater sleeping bag. Now I did attempt last night, it was about 14 degrees, just under 14 degrees last night when I jumped into the hammock, and normally I typically just use the Big Agnes sleeping bag here, which has got no insulation on the back, but it does have a sleeping pad that slots in, and the sleeping bag, sorry, the sleeping pad itself is insulated. So I think it's got an R rating of 4 point something or other. So this system works really well, and works very well in the hammock as well. Obviously you don't have that issue with compressing all of your loft etc underneath you, between you and the hammock. The pad stays where it should be. Comes a little bit challenging if you want to roll over, because the pad stays with you and the sleeping bag, but thus far this has been excellent. The only issue that I've had with this in any of the hammocks is that when I get cold elbows. So last night I traded into a piece of this soft foam mat, and it worked really well. That removed that cold spots on the elbows. Obviously I stick those out to the side. Excuse me. Obviously I stick the elbows out to the side, and they compress the loft there and the insulation there, and that's where I'm getting cold points. So I was really surprised actually how much that small foam pad made a difference. Really impressed. Since I tried that and I realised that this was giving me some sort of insulation, I thought, well, I wonder how low I can go and still be comfortable with the other sleeping bag. I did drop in a thin soft inflatable mattress underneath, which is only an inch thick, and then threw the 8 degree sleeping bag in, but it got down to about 10 degrees last night, 10 degrees Celsius, so not that cold, but I was cold in the other sleeping bag. So partway through the night, about 2 or 3 o'clock, I traded it out for this one and slept all the way through. Not only was I getting a little bit cold underneath with the other one, that wasn't so much of an issue, but I was cold on top, so the insulation on top just wasn't cutting it. So as I think I said before, that other sleeping bag just isn't correctly rated down to 8 degrees. First impressions, yep, it's pretty small. It's certainly a lot smaller than the DD Frontline. Compared to this, the DD Frontline is a palace. So we're just trying to get you up close to those stitches there. There we go. So you can see the stitching on this is all very well done. I haven't spotted any frays on this at all. Haven't spotted any frays on this at all. All of the stitching is holding really well. I've been very impressed. Now compared to the DD hammock, the DD hammock has lots of stitching. Not the stitching, but just loose threads all over the place, and you're just constantly pulling those out on the DD hammock, and they get all over the place. But yeah, really impressed. As others have said, when you first jump in this is, I think it was 1.7 ounce ripstop. You really jump in like when you jump in these for the first time, you lower your butt into them very slowly, because it just doesn't feel like it's going to support your weight. Obviously I know that this is a minimal hammock, and for that I get a lighter weight, which is what I was after. This does a reasonable job of holding, your stuff in. Had a phone, torch in it last night. I will be looking at doing some sort of a ridge line and putting some sort of a basket up there. Now that is one issue that I've got, and if you can have a look at this, the way I've got it laying fairly flat. Now, that's probably come from my experience with the DD. The DD likes to lay fairly flat and fairly taut. So my first instinct was to do the same with this. And I was actually quite comfortable in it. But what I did do, because I've noticed others tend to have them with quite a bit of sag in them, and use a structural ridgeline to get that sag, I thought, yeah, maybe I'm missing something, maybe I should dial a bit of sag into it. So I loosened off the Whoopie slings, dropped the bum right down, and I've got to tell you, for me it wasn't as comfortable. So I think I'm just going to stick with this with that sort of tension. It works well for me, but it does pose some additional challenges. As I said, I wanted to run a ridgeline, and when I see people who set these with sag run a ridgeline, they've actually got it through the lark's head here, through the knot here that actually holds the hammock, and the ridgeline runs straight across. Now if I run a ridgeline from this point to the other end of the hammock, obviously that's going to be about this height, and a ridgeline that's just off your face is no good to me. So what I'm going to have to come up with is possibly a ridgeline that's going to come up maybe to the marlin spike here. So I'm using just a couple of little, I think they're nano beaners, I think they're called, just to clip that off, and that permits me to pull the Whoopie sling up off the ground as well. So there we go, first impressions of the Nano 7 Grand Trunk. Exceptionally well made. I think I paid around about the $70 posted to Australia, come from the US. That was about the cheapest I'd seen them, so I snatched one up. I am looking at grabbing one of the ultralights too, which I think are around about the $20-30, based on my impressions of this, just for slinging out in the backyard and possibly leaving up full time. Now if you're a taller person, I think you're probably going to struggle with this. I'm only 5'4", so I'm a short ass, and I was finding this probably a pretty good fit actually for my height and weight. I'm only around about the 70 kilo mark, thereabouts. So for my height and weight, I found this a really good fit. Looking forward to grabbing some sort of a bug sock for it, and the lighter weight tarp from Wilderness Logics, which is on its way. Again, the big daddy. That's going to save me a couple of 100 grams on the tarp that I've got up here. I'm going to have slightly wider coverage, so slightly more coverage. And it's going to pack up a lot smaller than this one here. So combined with this hammock, I'm going to be well under the kilo. Quite comfortable if I lay down in my normal position, which is about here. You can see there's quite a bit of room above my head that I could probably still go up. And plenty of room down at the feet in there. So it probably could be quite a bit taller than me and still fit in here. That's obviously when comfort becomes an issue then. So that's it. That's my first impression of the Grand Trunk Nano 7. Really, really impressed. Looking forward to maybe picking up another Grand Trunk product. I hope that they're all of similar quality. Very reasonably priced, I think, for what it is, for the material that it is. Might give me a little bit of courage to do a DIY project as well off the hammock forums. Plenty of help and assistance there. And I think pretty much every hammock video that you see is going to be directing you to the same place, so get on it. Alright, thanks for stopping by. See you again. So definitely looking forward to getting this one out into the field and testing it out. Bug net will obviously have to come. So if you've got any suggestions on a nice lightweight bug net, I think somebody's recommended Papa Smurf's bug nets to me. I think Bug Sock, I think it's called. If you've got any ideas, check them down below and leave me some advice. And Somebody else is looking forward to it too. Later.